I'm Michael Fox, and this is the Prospector News Podcast. And I have joining me today the CEO and president of Brunswick Exploration, Killian Charles. Welcome aboard, Killian.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. We don't get to sit and chat very often. You're always a busy guy. Let's start this off with people who aren't familiar with Brunswick Exploration. Let's give them the 10,000 foot view of what the company is and where you stand in the market.
Yeah, so Brunswick Exploration is a well-financed lithium exploration company. It holds the largest amount of lithium-focused claims in Canada, all at the grassroots stage across a variety of provinces from Atlantic Canada right out to Saskatchewan. We are probably the #1 exploration company at the grassroots stage for lithium.
Wonderful. You were originally a spin out from one of the Osisko companies, Osisko Metals. Is Osisko still involved with you in a big way?
So we're not actually a spin out, completely separate company. Some of the Osisko group remain a historical shareholder of what we're doing. Obviously, some of our board and management have Osisko experience. We wear it loud and proud as necessary.
Well, it's good to have backing by a big company like Osisko. So one of the things that really intrigued me last year was it seemed like a week could not go by that I wasn't getting a press release from Brunswick Exploration telling me that you had either bought another claim or staked another claim. You went from being in the James Bay area of Quebec to all of a sudden you're like from the East Coast all the way to the Manitoba-Saskatchewan border, it seems. How did all that acquisition and staking come about last year?
I will point out that it has not stopped. We actually still haven't stopped acquiring more land as necessary. It's just a question that, we believe that people would rather see us work the claims than continue making announcements on that front. But we are still active. We still believe that there are more opportunities to be had across all of Canada. And really, but the main idea really came from a simple perspective. We felt that exploration in Canada relative to lithium exploration in Australia was lacking, was far behind. Canada is known for its gold, its copper, its nickel, its zinc deposits, not so much for lithium. And it's not because the potential or the opportunities aren't there. It's just quite honestly from a lack of exploration for that particular commodity. And so when we rapidly recognized that in 2020, 2021, 2022, we slowly started amassing our portfolio. It was, geological base. We identified opportunities that we liked across, initially, as you pointed out, Quebec and the Maritimes. But then as we started looking further afield, we said, well, look, the potential exists in other jurisdictions in Canada. Let's go see what else hasn't been checked out and what other opportunities exist for discoveries. And that's how we kept it growing and still growing to this day. We have many more opportunities ahead of us, which we'll be sharing with the markets over, the coming weeks and months.
That's fantastic news. Although the core of the company itself is still up in the James Bay area of Northern Quebec, in the area that you refer to as the Lithium Highway, which is a term I quite like, and I think it describes the area quite nicely. Tell me about your work up in the James Bay, and specifically tell me a lot about the Mirage project.
Yeah, so look, the Lithium Highway along that Trans-Taiga, which coincidentally is also where Patriot is. It's an area that is rapidly shaping out to be, I would say, globally significant. Assets that of the size and scale and grade as to which Patriot is underlining definitely underscore the opportunity in that region. We do have a number of claims in the area. Some of them immediately adjacent. That would be the Mitchell option with Midland. So it's immediately adjacent to Patriots ground. Obviously, due to the forest fires, we're a little bit limited in the work we can do up there, although I'm quite confident that the situation will turn around quite shortly here. Lots more rain in the forecast. We also have the Plex project in that area. And as you mentioned, the Mirage. So the Mirage asset is rapidly, becoming the core focus of the company. It's a property that we've sort of consolidated over a period of about 3 to 6 months. Took a little bit of a while to get it all together. But within 24 hours of having teams on site before we had to evacuate them back in early June due to the forest fires, they uncovered over 20 boulders filled with spodumene. And it's really important that we spend a moment to describe these boulders, spend a little bit of time of geology here, so bear with me. These boulders are car to house size. They are not small, and they are very angular in shape. That's really important because it means that the source has to be close. Quite frankly, you're not forming these large, like a glacier as it pushes, progressively chips away and wears down at these boulders until they become nice and rounded. So when you see sharp edges, when you see large sizes, that tells you that the source is actually quite close. And the interesting thing as well is that those 20 major boulders that they found are perpendicular to glaciation. So that means you're not dealing with a single source. You're dealing with a multitude of point sources, i.e. a line, that must stretch at least as long as where we've identified boulders, which I remind you, only over 24 hours of work here. So those boulders stretch over at least 1.5 kilometers. So the source should be roughly of that size as well. So it's an extremely exciting project that, while it remains relatively early, we've only been able to spend a few hours there, we know has all the indications that it's going to be something of great interest to us. Frankly, if you look at the pictures that we publish around there, you can see these boulders just contain up to 40-50% spodumene. That can be very, very high grade. That's almost bonanza grade when you look at them if it was to be scooped up and dumped in the back of a truck. And interestingly as well, you can see well-formed spodumene crystals of a pale color. These spodumene crystals that are 25-30 centimeters long, almost a foot long, quite broad as well. So that tells you, or it gives you strong indication that the metallurgy will be relatively simple. So it's what you want to see in spodumene. It's the perfect type of spodumene that you want to identify, that these pale colors in major size boulders in a brand new environment over 1 kilometer of strike length. It's not surprising that for us, it's going to be, all hands on deck. Let's focus on this asset. Not to say that the rest of the portfolio isn't interesting, but there is absolutely a core focus for us around this particular asset, to the point where we are now applying for drill permits. We know that we are going to be, once we're back in the field here, we know we're going to be making more discoveries in this area that immediately warrant some drilling. So we are preparing ourselves to be drilling in, around mid-September. And so that's also going to be a core focus to just make sure that we're well aligned on drilling there, because as we always say, it just takes one drill hole to get everything going. It just takes us to drill 50 meters or 80 meters of spodumene mineralization, and we're off to the races.
That's exciting. I have been a long believer that Canada will become an energy superpower as we move forward into this green energy. We have lots and lots of resources that are going to be needed. And I think the Quebec government is also recognizing that. I was at a conference in Quebec City called the Mining Event of the North in the last 3 weeks. And I got to listen to the Quebec Minister of Natural Resources talk about their processing plants in the Saguenay region to take advantage of all the lithium up in that Lithium Highway that you're talking about. How far away are you from that potential processing hub?
You know, it's a good question. We are the Mirage asset is about 100 kilometers to the east of Patriot. Plex is about 70 kilometers to the west of Patriot. Mitchell is obviously contiguous to the north of Patriot itself. So, for us, it's going to be comparable to what Patriot wants to do in terms of transportation, in terms of downstream processing. It's not going to be anything different.
That's good. It's always good to have the processing near where the mine could potentially end up being. I have been following the battery technologies, and the thing that I am finding as there are more and more competing potential batteries out there as we do move to green. But the thing that I'm finding currently is they all have a common denominator. They're all going to require lithium. How have you seen the overall lithium market looking? You were just at a conference in Nevada, which is another lithium hotbed. What did you learn there about the macro view for lithium?
Yeah, so the key thing here, my key takeaway from that one is, to your point, there's a lot of competing battery technologies out there, but lithium is the linchpin throughout this entire technology. But to me, more than anything else, it's the new lithium triangle. Historically, the lithium triangle has been known as the salars in Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia in South America. But the way the Americans view the lithium triangle, and I wish in Canada we would start to wise up a little bit to this, is a new hub, both from a production, downstream, and manufacturing hub, which is Quebec, Ontario, and the eastern seaboard of the US to produce and develop all of these various batteries sort of in-house. It is astounding to see the amount of support and interest and new companies driving forward, coming back to old manufacturing hubs along the eastern seaboard and reshoring a lot of manufacturing capacity into the US, into Canada, but it is going to require production from Ontario, but more than anything else, production from Quebec. And, all of these great plans require us to be, very much aware of the potential we have to be able, but it also requires us to make new discoveries. And that's what Brunswick is all about. It's to make new discoveries in these jurisdictions to feed into this new lithium triangle 2.0, which is going to be a driving force going forward. It astounded me the amount of investments happening around that. And key to all of them is production in Quebec. You're seeing it with a number of majors moving into the province, namely Rio Tinto, but I'm convinced you're going to see more and other companies move into the space. We're still such at an early stage. There's still much more consolidation to happen. It's going to be incredibly interesting, but more importantly, it's going to generate a lot of value and a lot of shareholder returns in the lithium space in Canada.
Perfect. So what are your plans for the balance of this year?
So look, we're obviously active. We're doing some prospecting the rest of Canada. We are going to be driving forward pretty aggressively back into Quebec once the forest fires are under control. There's been a lot more rain on the forecast and over the last 2 weeks. So the situation is progressively getting better. I'm quite confident that we'll be able to cycle our teams back up there. But ultimately, what matters is when are we drilling? And we are going to be back at the drill at the drill bit starting in September. And that's when it starts to get real fun once more. We hope to have a very aggressive fall in terms of, drilling a multitude of targets. And that's how we see it shaking out right now.
I'll be looking forward to seeing the results from that. Have we missed anything that we needed to cover about the company and where it's at today?
No, I think we have covered everything. Again, we're well financed, well backed with a plethora of very interesting projects. This is going to be a fun second half of the year for Brunswick and its shareholders.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the news and how this all starts to play out. And yeah, you're right. This is early stages, but they're exciting early stages. If people want to follow the company or get a hold of management, how would they do so?
We provide a lot of different opportunities, either through social media. I think there's a Twitter handle there, as well as directly on our website. Quite easy for us to reach out. I'm more than happy to reply to any shareholders that takes the time to write us an email or tweet at us, or alternatively lob in a phone call.
Perfect. I look forward to having you back on after the drill results come out this fall and see where the progress has been. Thanks very much for joining me today, Killian.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Brunswick Exploration is a paid sponsor of the Prospector News. The Prospector News podcast is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and are not to be taken as investment advice. Listeners need to do their own due diligence and seek advice of a licensed investment advisor.